Imagine 8 million years ago. When the world was still wild, the sky was unreachable by electric cables, and the sound of engines was unheard of. When one wrong step could mean the end of your life. In those days, our ancestors first learned to survive. Not with strength but with comfort. Not just with fangs but with wits. This story takes us back to the beginning. When darkness had no name, and the sound of thunder was an inexplicable fear. This is a story of courage, of loss, and of how early humans found their way in their harsh world. What do you think was the most terrifying thing the first humans had to face? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And let's begin. A journey into a time long gone. 8 million years ago, Earth wasn't what it is today. Mountains were young, forests stretched wild and boundless, and ancient animals roamed vast expanses undisturbed by civilization. In a fertile valley on the continent now known as East Africa, life was slowly taking shape. Morning mists still hung among the acacia trees. From behind the undergrowth, a tiny, furry figure cautiously stepped forward. It wasn't human, but it wasn't quite an ape either. It was a creature between two worlds. Modern researchers call it Sahelanthropus, one of the earliest forms of human ancestors. It walked upright though rudimentary. Its eyes were alert, scanning its surroundings, searching for ripe fruit or edible insects. Every step was filled with vigilance. Danger lurked from every direction. Long-toothed tigers prowled, searching for prey. Giant snakes writhed in the tall grass. And the sky, as if unfriendly, brought torrential rain that could erase any trace in an instant. But life must go on. A young female Sahelanthropus named Nala is the central character in this story. She lives with her small group near a winding river. There they drink, forage, and take shelter behind large rocks as night falls. That morning, Nala lost track of her family. When she woke, the sound of birds of prey could be heard loudly in the distance. The sky was still dark, even though the sun was beginning to shine. She called out in her distinctive voice, but there was no answer. The forest suddenly felt strange. It was quiet. The cold pierced her bones. Nala walked along the dirt path her group usually used. But the smell of the earth had changed. There was the scent of blood. And in the distance, a large shadow could be seen lurking behind a fallen tree. She froze. Her legs couldn't move. Then the sound of cracking branches made her heart race. The creature was approaching. The creature stepped out of the shadows. It was twice Nala's size. Its teeth bared. Its yellow eyes gleamed with ferocity. It was a young Arsinotherium, a type of ancient two-horned rhinoceros, being disturbed. It wasn't a predator, but it was large enough to trample anyone it perceived as a threat. Nala backed away slowly, knowing one rash move could make her a victim. Her breathing quickened, but her body remained still. The wind carried the scent of fear, and the creature neighed angrily before turning. Its heavy steps shook the ground. As the sound faded, Nala began to move again. She wasn't safe yet. She hadn't found her pack. She didn't know the way home. In the ancient wilderness, there was no mercy. Only the strong and intelligent survived. Nala climbed the hillside to look around. From the top, she saw faint tracks leading to the next valley. That was where her family might be. But the path there was fraught with danger. She had to cross rocky ravines and high plains where the big cats hunted. Treading cautiously, Nala heard a familiar sound, the faint call of a member of her pack. He answered softly, afraid of attracting predators. But the voice came again, this time closer. It came from another figure, slowly stepping out from behind the bushes. It wasn't a family member, but one of the adult males in their group, named Toro. Toro looked at Nala, then gestured with his hands and shoulders. It was a simple gesture, but enough to convey his point. They had to leave immediately. Danger was approaching. They ran down a small hill, weaving through the trees. The sky was growing grayer. Lightning flashed in the distance. A strong wind picked up, carrying the smell of mud and rain. Amidst the downpour, they found a small cave behind a rock. It was a temporary shelter, enough to last the night. In the darkness they shared warmth. Fire hadn't been invented yet, but their bodies were enough to keep each other warm. The rain poured down all night, carrying with it sounds from the ancient past, the cries of animals, the roars of predators, and the crackle of lightning that split the sky. Tomorrow they would have to move again. This world waits for no one. Dawn broke over the eastern horizon, bringing a thick mist and damp earth with a damp smell. The rain had subsided, but the threat hadn't. Nala and Toro stepped out of the narrow cave. The world seemed unfamiliar, but they couldn't stay still. Toro walked ahead, his eyes scanning every corner of the forest. Nala followed him with light steps, trying to imitate his calm. They knew one mistake could spell doom. A long-toothed cat might lurk behind the trees, or a giant constrictor waiting silently. Along the way they found footprints. Many. In one direction. Nala recognized them. They belonged to her group. A sense of hope arose. But also tension. For the tracks led to an open meadow. Dangerous place. Toro stopped behind a bush and looked down. There, in the middle of the meadow, was their group. Some were climbing a small tree. Others were standing guard. They were still alive. But not alone. A Smilodon, a saber-toothed cat also known as an ancient lion, was lurking at the edge of the meadow. Its body was large and lithe, its tail swinging slowly. It was waiting for the right moment to strike. Toro knew they had to act. It couldn't wait. He picked up a fist-sized rock and threw it across the field, creating a loud noise that distracted the predator. The Smilodon turned sharply. But that was precisely the moment. Toro ran toward the group. Nala followed. They pushed through the undergrowth and waved their hands. The emergency signal. The group immediately responded. Children were carried, others prepared to protect them. But the Smilodon had already seen through the ruse. It roared and leaped forward. Nala screamed. Toro turned, braving the danger. In one silent second, history changed. Toro lifted a large rock and threw it at the Smilodon's head. Not to kill it, but enough to halt its deadly leap. The rock struck it squarely in the eye. The Smilodon groaned and fell, fleeing into the undergrowth, wounded but not dead. The group was safe. Toro stood frozen, his chest heaving. Nala approached him. She knew what he had just done was more than just bravery. It was a survival instinct enhanced by reason. A precursor to human intelligence. That day, in the perilous wilderness, these ancient creatures proved that they survived not simply by physical strength. They survived by heart, by determination, and by the choice to protect one another. The sky began to brighten. The sun shone on the furry faces, but now with a new light. The light of hope. They continued their journey. And so human history began.